Sarvamangala Devi Namaha.
Namaste everyone! Today we are going to talk about Trayodashi Tithi or 13th lunar day in Vedic astrology. And 13th lunar day is governed by element ether, so the space, planet Jupiter and guna of sattva. And Trayodashi Tithi, it is said that it's one of the most flawless Tithis. In fact, Trayodashi Tithi is sometimes called in Hinduism Pradosh, the flawless one. And it is said that whenever you are fasting on Trayodashi Tithi, again, or if you are doing your spiritual practice on Trayodashi Tithi, you can more easily reach higher realms. You can more easily reach the divine. Kind of similar like on Ekadashi Tithi, but Ekadashi Tithi is much more, intense energy of purification. While Trayodashi Tithi has very light energy, very pleasant energy. The goddess presiding over Trayodashi Tithi is called Sarvamangala. Sarva means all, Mangala auspicious, so she's all auspicious one. And similarly, people born on Trayodashi Tithi also have similar qualities to her. They are often very successful, but very often also they are, just very pleasant, very generous, and just, like to share their blessings with the world. One of the most prominent qualities of Trayodashi Tithi, because the ruler here is Jupiter, is optimism. So people born on Trayodashi Tithi usually are very optimistic, they are very pleasant people, and they have really positive attitude towards life, Similarly, like for Panchami natives, for them the glass is always half full, They always rather see the goodness in things and rather see the goodness in people. Even Goddess Sarvamangala, she has hands like that, like Mahalakshmi. She's just sending her blessings to everyone. And similar are Trayodashi natives. But similarly, like Panchami natives, they also need to be careful, not to become hurrah optimistic, too optimistic, hyper optimistic, because they can get very easily excited about things, super optimistic about things, to the extent that they actually don't see the real obstacles on their way or real obstacles in reality, So that is one thing they need to take care of. So because the planetary ruler here is Jupiter and the goddess here is called Sarvamangala, all-auspicious one, people born on Trayodashi Tithi are usually very generous. Goddess Sarvamangala, according to some scriptures, she's actually holding, pot with money and pomegranate fruit, symbolizing, fertility. So similarly, these people are very generous, like naturally, not only in material terms generous, but they just love sharing, They very easily, also give people their kind words too, very generous in speech towards others as well. So that's one really positive quality of Trayodashi natives. And one interesting thing, if you are yourself Trayodashi native and if you experience any financial troubles, please pray to the goddess presiding your lunar day, Goddess Sarvamangala, because she is the actual goddess of wealth and prosperity. And again, because planetary ruler here is Jupiter, and Jupiter, he's the cosmic guru, cosmic teacher. These people really love to learn. I'm really sorry for these frogs here, I have no influence on them. I really hope that you can hear me regardless of them. But it's actually fascinating because in many cultures, frogs are actually considered the symbols of fertility. And Goddess Sarvamangala, because she's holding this pomegranate fruit, she's also connected to fertility. She's also connected, to Kamadeva, the god of love. So I believe this is why the frogs came here. But just to come back to the topic, so just because the planetary ruler here is Jupiter, Trayodashi natives really love to learn. They love to learn about many different things, and they are actually quite good in teaching too. So sometimes you can see professors with that placement again, spiritual teachers, even gurus. And because Trayodashi Tithi is also presided by element ether, similarly like in case of all etheric Tithis, so this was also Ashtami and Tritiya, also Trayodashi natives, they need a lot of stimulation, a lot of things going around them, lots of interaction also, because through stimulation, and through interaction, this is how they actually learn. And similarly, like in the case of previous two etheric Tithis, Ashtami and Tritiya, similarly in Trayodashi, what happens is that Trayodashi natives really need, lots of exchange of energy around them. So in the most mundane way in how it actually appears is that they need like lots of social interaction. They need also lots of social life. So relationships become really important for them. And if you are yourself, maybe married to Trayodashi native, you might like to know that usually they might actually expect from you to also participate in their social life, because it's really important for them. Divine quality associated with Trayodashi Tithi is Nitivati. And Nitivati is most commonly translated as righteousness. Righteousness, equality, and social justice, again, these things are very, very important for Trayodashi natives as well. Why? Because similarly, like in case of Dvadashi Tithi and Ashtami Tithi, the yantra here is completely round, just with 3 rings of lotus petals around it. But again, similarly, like in the case of the previous yantras, no matter how you turn the yantra, no matter from which angle you look at it, it will always look the same. And actually Trayodashi natives have this quality too. They are capable of actually looking with equanimity, with equal eye at everybody, So that's actually really, really beautiful quality in them. But Nitivati, if you would actually try to, let's say, literally translate it, it would be more like following the rules actually. So they're also very good in following the rules, and whenever they are doing something, they like to have also a set of rules that they can follow, so they may simply, make sure that they are accurate in what they are doing. So because the element is ether here, people born on Trayodashi Tithi, they also love their freedom and they love their independence. However, due to their love for freedom and love for independence, they might sometimes have a problem with commitment, So these are people who are actually in relationship very romantic, They like this romance, they like adventure in relationship. But when it comes to commitment, it might sometimes become a little bit hard for them. Because again, also one of the deities presiding over Trayodashi Tithi is Kamadeva, who is the god of love, god of desire, but he's not specifically, the most committed one, let's put it like that. So because one of the gods presiding over this lunar day is Kamadeva, and even Goddess Sarvamangala, she's holding this pomegranate fruit in her hands. Also, Trayodashi natives are very passionate, very fiery. Even if we don't see that, just through, let's say, planetary ruler, who is Jupiter, or if we don't see that through the element ether, but they really have this inner fire and they have this inner passion. Sometimes even they can be a little bit impatient or even a little bit impulsive too. And one actually really interesting thing is that scientific research proved that specifically Shukla Trayodashi, so 3 days before full moon, this is the time where there is the biggest amount of car accidents too. So definitely Trayodashi natives also need to learn how to control their temper a little sometimes. One thing that Trayodashi natives may also kind of look closer into themselves is their expectations. Usually they actually have very high expectations, and more often, unfortunately, they have high expectations of others, not of themselves. So they expect kind of more from the world. And this is kind of natural, when you are a very optimistic person, like they are, you naturally always expect what is the best, right? But this is not what the world is always giving you in reality. And this is why sometimes, these are like really talented people, but they don't like hard work because they expect everything to happen, just like that, just to flow to them, just to come to them as a blessing. So this is one quality which they really need to, kind of cool down within themselves, and this is just to lower their expectations and expect less from the world and a little bit more from themselves. So yes, Trayodashi natives, they can be also quite impatient sometimes, very often they expect things to, happen or come to them like right here, right now. They're a little bit too optimistic about things. This is exactly this quality what makes them actually so impatient sometimes. So even in relationships actually, because ether element is one of the fastest elements, one of the most speedy elements. So for example, in relationships, these are often the sort of people who, when they start, dating you, or when they marry you, they like immediately want to have joint accounts, right? Or things like that. They sometimes rush a little bit too much, into relationships, and not only partnerships, but generally into things. So sometimes what they just really need to do is to calm down, slow down a little, meditate before you do something. Don't rush into things, with your big expectations, with your big optimism, because you may simply get disappointed. So this is something for Trayodashi natives to be a little bit more conscious about. And what happens if the expectations or the optimism of Trayodashi natives is not fulfilled? Well, sometimes they tend to compensate things, Compensation is really the key word for Trayodashi natives. So, for example, in mythology, what happened when Tara, the wife of Jupiter, remember please, Jupiter is the planetary ruler here, and Jupiter, he was not very much into marriage. I mean, he's a spiritual master of the gods, he's a guru, and he has his pride too, but he was always, into helping others, and he didn't took so good care of his wife. So what happened, that exactly on Trayodashi Tithi, Chandradev, or the moon god, came and kidnapped his wife, and they had love together, And this can also happen with Trayodashi natives sometimes. They may seek love or fulfillment out of their relationship, but please again, don't judge people just because of this one single placement, because so many other things in the chart must confirm that, right? Like the placement of the moon or the placement of the Tithi Lord. So it's not necessarily that it will always happen. They may also compensate, their feeling of lacking of something, because that's really what is causing this mechanism of compensation. For example, with addictions or with anything else. And if you are Trayodashi native yourself, and if you sometimes feel, like your life is empty, or like your expectations are not fulfilled, the best thing you can do, really find yourself some creative thing to do, Find yourself some hobby, some sort of passion, like compensate this in a healthy way. And this is when you will really feel fulfilled. And the best remedy for all Trayodashi natives is the most beautiful quality of Jupiter himself, which is gratitude. So if you are a Trayodashi native yourself, learn how to be more grateful for things which you have in life. Learn, not to expect so much, not to constantly look into the future, but how to be grateful for what you have here and now. And trust me, the more grateful you will be, the more wealth and prosperity will be in your life, the more fulfilled you will feel, the more happy you will feel. So gratitude is really the best remedy if you're looking for any. Even make exercise literally every single day, write on a piece of paper 5 things you're grateful for, just to rewire your brain. And you will see that things will start to come into your life much more easily. So that was my short analysis of Trayodashi Tithi, or 13th lunar day in Vedic astrology. And if you would like to know more about Trayodashi Tithi or any other lunar phase, you can purchase my ebook, Journey with the Moon. You can also join me on my Patreon community, where we are having bi-monthly webinars, mostly on the topic of Tithis and some other fascinating things in Vedic astrology. Or you can also join me on 4 weeks long intense course about Tithis or lunar phases in Vedic astrology, where we will also learn how to analyze a Tithi while looking at a birth chart. And I am going to have this course with Cosmic Insights very soon, 23rd June. So you have all the links below. You can also subscribe to my channel, because there is going to be much more interesting videos coming. So thank you so much for your attention. Namaste.